everybody, it must be Monday. I must be Spike Cohen, and you must be whoever you are, because this is Culture of Winning, and I am, of course, Spike Cohen. Culture of Winning, if this is your first time watching, is a show where we talk to libertarians who have been elected to office so that we can find out how libertarians get elected to office. We want more of that. We want more libertarians getting elected to office. It happens all the time. It happens every single election. We want it to happen even more. And we sit down with libertarians who have been elected to office to see why they decided to run in the first place, how they were able to win, and build a blueprint for how libertarians can win in the future. And with that in mind, and without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my next guest, who I've had the pleasure of hanging out with all weekend. She is the recently duly elected Calimesa, California City Councilwoman. Her name is Wendy Hewitt. Wendy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you and your husband Jeff for being such gracious hosts in where were we, Murrieta?
Or I think it was called Rancho Murrieta, like a suburb outside of Sacramento.
Okay, yeah, and we were there for the Reopen California, Reopen Cal Now conference and rally that was put together. It went very, very well. It's an awesome movement you guys are building there, and I'm honored to have been one of the people to speak at the first one. So thank you again for having me, Wendy.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, thank you. Whenever I have a libertarian on any of my shows for the first time, the first thing that I ask is, what is it that brought you to libertarianism and the Libertarian Party in the first place? Was it kind of an aha moment or a gradual evolution over time? Every libertarian has their genesis story. Tell us the Wendy Hewitt story.
Oh, wow. Well, I think I've always been a libertarian ever since I could vote, Obviously, I think it started with Ronald Reagan, and he did have a few libertarian ideas, but, there was still some other issues there. I don't think I really got involved with the party until Jeff was deciding that he was going to run for city council, and, we knew we were libertarians. We voted that way. So he got in touch with the state party, and they wanted him to join them and, be part of their movement. And I think that's where we started getting more involved, is when Jeff jumped in and wanted to run for city council and do some other things. So it wasn't like waking up one morning and saying, "Oh, I'm a libertarian." I think I was always a libertarian. I think our big deal was businesses. We were tired of all the taxes and everything in California.
Right.
You just get taxed to death in California. So, and as a small business owner, it was just, it can be overwhelming.
So you actually had a similar experience that I did. That what got me initially into libertarian activism was, really, I guess, just being a libertarian to begin with, was how brutal it was to be a small business owner and have the ever increasing taxes on everything that I was doing. And I was in South Carolina, where the taxes aren't nearly as bad at the state level as they are in California. So I can only imagine how motivating that must have been.
Yeah.
What was it? And so have you lived in California your whole life, or?
Well, I was born in Oregon, but we moved away from there when I was 2. So
Okay.
I've been a native of California since I was 2.
Oh, okay. So what was it that made you decide that you wanted to run for city council? I know Jeff's already the one of the commissioners of Riverside County.
County
What was it that made you?
Yeah.
County supervisor of Riverside County. What was it that made you decide you wanted to run for city council?
Well, I've been involved with the Libertarian State Party for a while. I'm the Southern Area Coordinator for California, and I'm also with our local city. I've been on the Chamber of Commerce for 5 years, and so I knew our community. I was very involved with everything. At the time, I think I said I was never going to run for office. It's a lot of work, and a lot of time goes into it, running actually. And Jeff kind of convinced me to run. He said, we really need more libertarians in office. And I can't argue with that. Of course we do. And Jeff had been off the city council for a couple of years, and it seemed like the timing was just right. There was 3 seats, incumbents, 3 seats coming up. And I thought, now's a good time. The name is still fresh in everybody's head, the Hewitt name. And, people know me in my community, and I have some great ideas, obviously libertarian views and ideas. So it just seemed like the perfect timing to do it. And so I did it.
And so here's a perfect thing that we talk about on this show a lot, folks. This is a big deal. Wendy and Wendy and Jeff, but Wendy is well known in her community, and that's a big part of being able to run in these local races. In local races, people care not quite as much. For federal races, it's more about like what are the issues that what's your stance on this, what's your stance on that. There's some of that with citywide races as well, but it's much more heavily weighted towards, have I ever heard of you? Do I have any reason to think you care about me? Is there any reason that I should think that I should put you in charge of or put you as one of the people in charge of the city that I live in, because it's closer to home. It's more personal to people. So it's very important, to whatever extent you can, if you're trying to run a campaign based on, actually running like a vocal campaign, you have to, be out in front of people in a positive way. So Wendy, in your run, what would you say was the most what were some of the most challenging things about the race that you ran?
I'd have to say, you can go by the book and say, I've heard it drummed into my head several times. If you're going to run a campaign, you're going to have to get out there and do some door knocking. And that was one of the things, I'm not necessarily an outgoing person all the time. And so to go knock on somebody's door was kind of like, I don't really want to do this. But, Jeff got me out there. And once you get started on knocking on people's door, it's such a positive experience, because most of the time people would go, I know you, I already voted for you. Or they listen to it and say, yes, I will consider you. So I had a really positive, time knocking on people's door. But I think that was the biggest thing, was getting myself out there to knock on somebody's door. And it really makes a difference, because they see you out there working hard, trying to get their vote, trying to be part of your community. And I think that was the biggest deal.
So it was really just that you're not like an incredibly, I don't even know. I'm not sure you would say you're not extroverted, or just that's not your preferred thing, to just be talking to lots and lots of people all at once like that. But you got over it. You went out, you did it. And like you said, and I can tell you this, I've done a lot of door knocking as well, both for campaigns and for like just helping promote libertarianism. Once you start, the first few are sometimes awkward, or just, it's more you're awkward starting. But once you've done it, it actually becomes kind of a snowball thing. It becomes pretty easy. And people typically, especially if you're running for office, people typically are pretty receptive to the fact that you're actually knocking on their door to ask for their vote. Usually, not always. You get the occasional person that wishes you hadn't. But the vast majority of people are actually going to be pretty excited that you thought to knock on their door and talk to them to try to get their vote. So, that's pretty cool that you did that, even though that isn't immediately what you would otherwise want to do.
Right. And they want to tell you their story. When you do come to them, they want to tell you what's bugging them about either the town or what's going on with them. And so it really helps you get to know everybody too.
Yep. Well, get to know everybody, get to know what they're talking about. And when they're talking to you and, spilling their guts, about, unloading all the stuff, venting about the city, they're building a rapport with you.
Yeah.
Subconsciously, their mind is saying, this is someone I can trust. This is someone that's here listening to me. This is someone that cares about me. That all matters when it comes time to vote. And we say it a lot on this show. And apparently Jeff was saying it a lot to you. Door
Yeah.
knocking is really important. If you are in a community that is set up in such a way that you can effectively knock on a lot of doors, do it. Because
Yeah.
if you're in a very rural area where homes are several acres apart, it might not work. If you are in such a built up metropolitan area that you couldn't possibly hope to knock on all the doors you would need to knock on, and you need to do more kind of visibility stuff so that lots of people can see you at once, then you have to tailor it. But for the majority of suburban or small urban communities, door knocking's where it's at, especially for like city council and county council races. It's a big deal. So Wendy, what would you say? Like, we have a lot of people that are watching this that they're considering running, or they're considering helping someone else run. They want to know how to be able to, how to be able to run their race to win. What would you say if you had to give, one or two big pieces of advice? What would you say are the biggest lessons that you learned that you would want to share with anyone who's thinking of running for office?
The biggest lesson was actually, and it like I said, it's textbook. You need to get out there. You need to talk to people. You need to knock on doors. You need to be visible in the community. Obviously, you need to raise money. It depends on the race, obviously, and the timing is right. I know there's a lot of people that say, "Hey, I want to go out there and I want to run for assembly, or I want to be run for mayor." Or, well, if people haven't seen you or know you, or you haven't been part of your community,
Right.
they're not going to vote for you. Why would they? I mean, you need to have something that you can show, hey, I've been involved in my community, or I've been involved in the school or the school board, or whatever it is. But
Yep.
you kind of need to have a resume. You can't just jump in there and expect people to vote for you. You need to be able to show that you've been there. They have to see you.
Yep. And it's like we were saying before, when it's local, it has so much to do with who are you? Do I know you? Where have you been? What
Right.
have you done for our community? It's not. Libertarians often start with our ideas. Well, who are you? I'm someone who thinks that this should happen and this should happen and this should happen. And people are like,
Right.
yeah, but who are you? When I've never heard of you, or I think I might have heard of you, but where have you been? So when people come to me and say, I'm thinking of running for office in a couple of years, what should I do? And I'm like, go outside right now. Like, go
Yeah.
do something, right? Like, go get involved in your community. And I mean, that was a big, like, you just did this Reopen Cal Now thing, and that's another example of being out in the community.
Yeah. And well, yeah, that's true. And with Jeff, my husband being involved in the community and myself being involved with the chamber, we were around everybody. I mean, the town next door,
Yep.
All the fundraisers, all the events. They saw me. They knew me. They knew who I was. They knew what I did. So it was easier than I thought. I shouldn't say that because it can be very hard, but it was easier than I thought it would be.
Well, it was easier than you thought because you did the work, and you did the pregame work as well, because it's not, you weren't just Jeff's wife. You were at these events. You were talking to people. You were present. You were active. You were a part of the community. And all of that is the pre-work, if we're going to call it that you did before you actually ran for office. That's good. It's good for you to have so much pre-work already done that all you got to do is, knock on some doors, get out there, make sure people know you're running, and then you win. Like,
Right.
and that's the biggest part of what we try to say with this show is that, we're going to demystify the idea of libertarians getting elected, because it can happen. There's just, especially at the city and local and regional races, it's just a matter of getting out there. And it's, not just running a campaign where you go, I'm running to reduce this and to increase this and to implement this and to get rid of this. That's all fine and good, but if no one knows who you are, the vast majority of normal people, non-libertarian people, are not going to vote for you. They're not even going to care. So
Right.
it's really good that you did that. So now that you are now the duly elected and recently sworn in city councilwoman of Calimesa, California. Now that you've been elected, what are some of the main goals that you want to achieve while you're in office?
Well, I have to say, we're a smaller community. We only have about 8,500 people in Calimesa. We have a lot going on as far as we're on the verge of growing really quick. We have a lot of housing projects coming in. But my deal right now, and I've been involved with the chamber with it, is our struggling businesses. So what we're trying to do is just basically get the word out to, shop local, stay local, help your restaurants, go eat there, go pick some food up, go, do what you can for
Do
your
what you can, yeah.
community. So that's a big deal right now. As far as goals, obviously, I'm a libertarian through and through. So the smaller the government, the better. Obviously, I'm going to try to implement some of my ideas, some of my thoughts. Where can we get rid of, this or that, maybe fees or anything to do with business, try to be a more business friendly city. So that's what I'm going to be looking at.
Good. And these are the things that you can do when you're in office, right? You're in office. Instead of being outside of it or even going to the meetings and saying, hey, this is what I'd like, you're now the one behind the table or behind the bar or whatever, being one of the people making the decisions and building professional relationships with the other people there and helping to guide the debate that's happening there in your district. So it's fantastic that you're doing that. I mean, Wendy, it's funny because we've literally we were hanging out yesterday. So that's why it's so funny doing this because, we were like taking pictures together and then like, okay, see you tomorrow on the show. So it's kind of funny. But, I just want, I have to take a moment to talk about this Reopen Cal Now thing because it's not what this show's about, but it kind of is what this show's about. You and Jeff as elected officials were able to pull in other elected officials, both libertarian and from other political parties, to put together a huge event and to get money from donors who are not libertarians. And part of the reason that you were able to do this is because you had a fantastic idea for what you wanted to do. But the other part of it is that there is a level of I guess, quote unquote, legitimacy that comes with being an elected official. Can you just tell us a little bit about what Reopen Cal Now was and what the vision is for it moving forward?
Okay, well, it started out, Jeff's a county supervisor, and we've been struggling. I mean, every meeting he has, people come there and say, we need to open up. We need to get open. We can't survive this. And even our sheriff, everybody knows him, Chad Bianco, was going, I'm not going to enforce these rules. Everybody's struggling, be smart about this. You have to survive. Everybody's essential. And I think, that's where we were coming from. The Open Cal Now thing originally for Jeff was we were going to go up to Sacramento. We were going to protest. This was what it was going to be. Well, then he got involved with the Sacramento, another gal up there, supervisor in Sacramento. And she said, well, let's make it a little bit different. Let's educate people about it, because we're hearing all this bad stuff on the news. And they're just telling you everything bad. Oh, you're going to die if you go out. And, really don't watch the news. That's basically what you shouldn't do. So we want to educate people is what they were saying. Let's educate people. Let's bring people in from UCLA and other places. And so they can tell us what they think, and basically that's what it ended up. I mean, this whole weekend was to educate, to really let people know that we can open up open up safely, whatever it takes. If I have to wear a mask for somebody to open their business, then I'm going to do that, because everybody's struggling. Like I said, everybody's essential. And some of this stuff is just outrageous and ridiculous. Like at the protest, we had a gentleman there who owns over 100 hair salons, and he's had to lay a bunch of people off. Well, his health department officer, they were saying, we can track this. And he's saying, he asked, has anybody contracted the virus from any hair salons? Well, no, we have zero. Well, then why aren't they open? So things just aren't making sense at all.
Yeah.
There's just no rhyme or reason to this, to be killing our economy and telling people to close their businesses. They're not getting it from the restaurants. They're not getting it from the hair salons. I have my opinion.
They're getting it at home. They're mostly getting it at home. That's just like cold and flu. They're mostly getting it at home, which is why it's so counterintuitive to tell everyone to stay home.
Right. So, we have the largest numbers now in California we've had in a long time, and we've been locked down, and they've been telling us not to do things, and our children aren't in school and they're suffering. And, they used to talk, the big deal was our homeless situation in LA and the mental problems everybody was having. Well, guess what? It's going to be triple or more when we come out of this. They've already shown in San Francisco, they've had more deaths from suicides than they have the COVID-19. So there's a problem there, and we're not addressing it properly. You're not doing the right thing. Let people get back to work. Let people, do what they think is right for them.
Yep, exactly. And the beauty of this of this conference that you put together, it wasn't just a protest. We did that too, but it actually started with basically a 2-day long, or I guess a full day, and then an evening and so the better part of 2 days of symposiums featuring doctors and economists and health policy experts and civil rights activists and attorneys and people who have successfully sued the state and state assembly people, which is that's what the California state legislature is called, is the assembly. So people from the assembly. It was a nonpartisan thing of experts across the spectrum of ideas explaining why the lockdowns don't work. And the biggest takeaway that I got from it, and I cribbed it and used it in part of my speech that I gave at the protest. California's total rate of COVID cases for the entirety of this pandemic is about 6.5%. I think it's like 6.4%.
Yeah.
In South Carolina, where we've never had a full-on lockdown, and where for the past few months we've had almost no kind of anything. There's like you can't serve alcohol after 11 or something like that, which that's still a stupid restriction, but it's very little compared to California, and our rate of spread is about 6.5%. And Florida, who did initially have lockdowns but hasn't for several months, theirs is about 6.5%. And when you look at the differences in the rate of spread from state to state, there are some states with a lot of spread, some states with very little, and whether or not they have lockdowns doesn't seem to play into it. There are states that have lockdowns with high rates, states that don't have lockdowns with high rates, states with low rates that have lockdowns, states with low rates that don't. It's almost as though the lockdowns are completely counterintuitive and do nothing to slow or speed up the spread of the virus. It's a foolish thing. But the beauty of what you were able to do and put together with this event is that you were able to, as an elected official, not just as a libertarian activist and someone that's well known in your community, but as an actual official, as an actual politician, you and Jeff and others that came together with you guys leading the way on this, were able to get a much broader and more diverse audience listening to this anti-lockdown message than you could have otherwise gotten. And that's just another example. As libertarians, we often go, well, it's not right, we shouldn't give more credence to politicians. Well, we shouldn't, but people do. And let's leverage that. Let's get elected to offices, leverage the, undeserved reverence that we get from it, and let's use it to spread our message of liberty.
Yes, that's correct. And it's funny because over the weekend, there was a lot of different people there, Republicans, not, just different people. It wasn't all Republicans. There were libertarians, independents, everybody, and I was talking to somebody and they said, I was telling them about the Libertarian Party. And they said, well, isn't that kind of an oxymoron? I mean, you guys aren't for a lot of government. I said, well, yeah, but we want to get elected and leave you alone. So that's basically what we want to do.
Yeah.
We want you to make your own choices.
Yeah. We want you to be empowered, you to have your money back, you to have your freedom to make choices back, so you can live a much better life than some politician, even us. Even if all the politicians are us, we're in office. We don't know how you can live your life better than you can, so we just give everything back to you, so you can do it the way that you feel is best to do it, and more than likely that's going to be a far better outcome. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for coming on. It's awesome getting to see you. It's been hours since I've seen you, so it's really good to catch up with you. Before I let you go, I want to give you a chance. I want to give you the final word. Say anything that you felt like didn't get a chance to get said. If there's anything you'd like to promote that's coming up, whatever you want to say, Wendy Hewitt, the floor is yours.
I think I'd like to say I'd like to see more people get involved. If we all don't sit at home, get involved with your local party. Even if you're not going to run for office, get out there and help somebody. You help them by knocking on doors or passing out flyers for them or making a few phone calls, but just really get involved with your local libertarian parties, because we need help. We need all the help we can get. And sometimes it's hard to carry loads. We'd love to see everybody at our convention in May. Just come out and just help us. The more people we have, the bigger voice we have. So talk to people and tell them about, the Libertarian Party. If you can, just get your story out there.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah, that's what this show is about as well, is like, let's go do stuff, guys, like whatever. And it doesn't have to be running for office. Some people, they don't want to run for office, and that's perfectly fine. There's something else you can do. Help someone that is going to run for office. We can't all be candidates. There are many people that's not what they're suited for. Good. Help someone that is suited for that. So, Wendy, thank you so much for coming on. And say hi to Jeff for me. I miss him so much, too. I haven't seen him in hours. And I haven't talked to him.
Say hello to your wife for us. We'd love to see her again, too.
I would love to. Next time I come, hopefully I'll be bringing Tasha as well. But thank you again so much for coming, and I really appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Spike.
And folks, thank you for tuning into this episode of Culture of Winning. I do this every time. I forget to pull up the calendar so that I can tell you who my next guest is. I actually think we don't have... Yes, next week, next Monday, I am interviewing Aaron Wright. He will be my next guest. He's a newly elected libertarian, and I will be interviewing him. Same Spike place, same Spike time, right here at 8 p.m. Eastern on Monday for Culture of Winning. Folks, thanks again for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I'm Spike Cohen, and you are the power. God bless, guys.